You're just waiting to die. Trevor said it while I was lying in a hospital bed, tubes in my arm, my left side still numb from the stroke. He wasn't angry. He wasn't crying. He was scrolling through his phone, barely looking at me. My daughter Melissa stood by the window, arms crossed, checking her watch. "How much longer before he can go home?" she asked the nurse, like I was a burden she couldn't wait to drop off. I tried to speak, but my words came out slurred. Trevor sighed, loud and impatient. "Can we go now?" The nurse looked uncomfortable. She adjusted my blanket and left the room quickly. That's when it hit me. I wasn't their father or grandfather anymore. I was just an inconvenience. A problem they had to manage until I finally disappeared. Trevor slipped his phone into his pocket and stood up. "Let's go, Mom. I've got plans." Melissa nodded. They walked out without saying goodbye. The door clicked shut. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight, tears rolling down my face. Not from the stroke. From the truth I'd been avoiding for years. They didn't love me anymore. They didn't even help me inside. Melissa pulled into my driveway 3 days later, engine running. She didn't put the car in park. Trevor sat in the passenger seat, earbuds in, staring at his phone. I fumbled with my seatbelt, my left hand still weak. The cane slipped from my lap and clattered onto the pavement. I bent down slowly, pain shooting through my ribs. Neither of them moved. I finally opened the door and stepped out, gripping the cane tight. Melissa rolled down her window just an inch. "Call if you need anything," she said flatly. Before I could respond, she reversed out of the driveway. I stood there, watching her taillights disappear down the street. The front door felt miles away. I hobbled toward it, one shaky step at a time. When I finally got inside, the house was cold and silent. No welcome home signs. No casserole in the fridge. Nothing. I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted and heartbroken. That's when I knew I was completely alone. I'm Hank Morrison. I'm 72 years old. I worked as a machine technician for 40 years, fixing assembly lines and hydraulic systems. My hands are scarred from burns and cuts, but they still work. I raised Melissa by myself after her mother left when she was 6. I never remarried. I didn't have time. I was too busy making sure Melissa had everything she needed. I bought her first car. Paid for her college tuition when her deadbeat ex walked out on her and Trevor. I gave her the down payment for her first house. I thought I was building a bond. I thought I was showing her love. But looking back now, I realize I was just a checkbook. A safety net. Someone she could use when she needed something. And when I had nothing left to give, I became invisible. Trevor used to be different. He'd run into my arms every time I visited. He'd beg me to take him fishing or teach him how to fix things in my garage. But somewhere along the way, that little boy disappeared. And I became just another old man taking up space. The signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. It started small. Missed phone calls. Text messages that said, "Too busy," or "Maybe next time." I told myself they had lives to live. They were just occupied. Then came the skipped birthdays. The unopened Christmas cards I sent with checks inside. The excuses about being out of town or having other plans. I'd drive to Melissa's house unannounced, hoping to surprise them. She'd open the door halfway, blocking the entrance. "Dad, this isn't a good time." Trevor wouldn't even come downstairs. I'd leave with a forced smile, pretending it didn't hurt. But it did. Every single time. At family gatherings, they'd sit on the opposite side of the table. Melissa would talk to everyone except me. Trevor would leave early, claiming he had homework. I told myself it was just a phase. That they'd come around eventually. But they never did. And deep down I knew why. I wasn't useful anymore. I wasn't writing checks or fixing their problems. I was just an old man they were waiting to bury. Trevor used to call me Papa. He'd wrap his little arms around my legs and refuse to let go. I'd lift him onto my shoulders, and he'd laugh so hard he'd almost fall off. I taught him how to bait a fishing hook, tie his shoes, ride a bike without training wheels. I was there for his first day of kindergarten when Melissa was too busy with work. He used to beg me to stay the night. We'd watch old westerns together, and he'd fall asleep on my lap. But somewhere around middle school, everything changed. He stopped calling. Stopped visiting. When I'd ask Melissa about him, she'd shrug. He's a teenager now, Dad. He's got his own life. I tried to connect with him. Bought him video games. Took him to concerts. But he'd just mumble thanks and disappear into his room. The last time I saw him before my stroke, he barely looked at me. I asked him about school, and he gave one-word answers. I hugged him goodbye. He didn't hug back. That little boy who called me Papa was gone. And I didn't know how to get him back. I overheard Melissa at the hospital. She didn't know I was awake. She was talking to the nurse outside my room. Her voice was calm, almost businesslike. How long does he have? Realistically? The nurse hesitated. It's hard to say. With therapy and care, he could live several more years. Melissa sighed. What about insurance? Does Medicare cover everything, or will we need to step in? The nurse started explaining costs, but I stopped listening. My chest felt hollow. She wasn't asking because she cared. She was calculating, planning, preparing for the inconvenience of keeping me alive. That night, after they left, I called my bank. I moved every dollar out of the joint account Melissa had access to. I updated my will. I made sure she couldn't touch a cent without my approval. If she was going to treat me like a burden, I wasn't going to make it easy for her to profit from my death. For the first time in years, I felt something other than sadness. I felt clarity. The stroke didn't kill me, but it almost broke me. My body was healing. The doctors said I was lucky. My speech came back. My strength improved. But my heart? That was a different story. I wasn't sad because I almost died. I was sad because I realized how little it would have mattered to them. Melissa visited me twice during my 2-week hospital stay. Trevor came once, and he spent the entire time on his phone. When I was discharged, no one offered to help me with physical therapy. No one checked in to see if I was eating or taking my medication. I was on my own. But something shifted inside me. I stopped waiting for them to care. I stopped hoping they'd change. I started focusing on myself. I went to therapy. I walked every morning. I rebuilt my strength, piece by piece. And I stopped calling Melissa. I stopped texting Trevor. If they wanted to forget about me, fine. I'd forget about them too. At least, that's what I told myself. 2 months later, my phone rang at 6 in the morning. It was Melissa. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Dad, it's Trevor. He collapsed at school. They rushed him to the hospital. His kidneys, they're failing. He needs a transplant. My heart dropped. What happened? I asked, my voice shaking. They don't know. Some kind of infection. It damaged both kidneys. We're testing family members to see if anyone's a match. She paused, her voice breaking. Dad, please. I know we haven't been close, but he's my son. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tight. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to say, where were you when I needed you? But I couldn't. Because no matter how much they'd hurt me, Trevor was still my grandson. I'll get tested, I said quietly. Melissa exhaled. Thank you, Dad. Thank you. I hung up, staring at the wall. And for the first time in months, I felt something I didn't expect. Purpose. The doctor looked surprised. Mr. Morrison, you're a match. A perfect one. I sat in the cold exam room, staring at the test results. Of course I was. Trevor was my blood. But then an idea formed. A quiet, powerful idea. If I do this, I said slowly, no one can know it's me. The doctor frowned. Anonymous donation? That's unusual for family. I don't care. I want it done anonymously. No names. No records that link me to him. Can you do that? He hesitated, then nodded. Legally, we can process it that way. I signed the papers that afternoon. I didn't tell Melissa. I didn't tell Trevor. I wasn't doing this for their gratitude. I wasn't doing it so they'd love me again. I was doing it because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. But I also wasn't going to let them use me again. Not this time. The surgery was scheduled for 2 weeks later. I went home and waited in silence. The surgery went smoothly. I woke up in recovery, groggy and sore. A nurse checked my vitals and smiled. "You did great, Mr. Morrison. You saved that boy's life." I nodded weakly. While Trevor was surrounded by balloons, flowers, and family, I was alone in a rehabilitation center, eating bland soup and staring at white walls. Melissa never called to check on the anonymous donor. She was too busy posting about Trevor's miraculous recovery. I saw the pictures online. Trevor smiling in his hospital bed. Melissa hugging him, tears streaming down her face. The caption read, "Our miracle. Forever grateful to the hero who saved our son." I closed my phone and stared at the ceiling. I didn't regret it. Not for a second. Because I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. For the man I wanted to be, not the man they made me feel like. And that was enough. Then Melissa started a GoFundMe. The title read, "Help Trevor Recover from Life-Saving Surgery." She wrote a long post about how they were struggling with medical bills, how the anonymous donor had given them hope, how they needed support to get through this difficult time. The donations poured in. $5, $20, $100. Within 2 weeks, she'd raised over $15,000. I watched from my quiet house, scrolling through the updates. She posted photos of Trevor at home, thanking everyone for their generosity and prayers. But there were no medical bills. Trevor's surgery was fully covered by insurance. She was lying. And people were falling for it. I felt my jaw tighten. My hands shook as I set the phone down. She wasn't just ignoring me. She was profiting off my sacrifice. And she had no idea I was watching every single post. By the end of the month, Melissa had raised $48,000. She bought a new car. A sleek silver SUV. Posted pictures of it with the caption, "Needed something reliable for Trevor's appointments." She took spa trips. Posted selfies with face masks and champagne glasses. Self-care is important during hard times. She remodeled her kitchen. Granite countertops. Stainless steel appliances. All while talking about Trevor's near-death experience and the miracle donor who saved him. No mention of me. Not even a whisper. Just crocodile tears and carefully filtered photos for strangers who handed her cash. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the screen. My chest burned with anger. Not at the money, at the lies. I wasn't asking for thanks. I wasn't asking to be called a hero. But I wasn't going to let her steal from people while pretending to be a victim. I picked up my phone and made a call. I need to hire a private investigator. His name was Carl. Mid-50s, graying beard, calm demeanor. He met me at a diner and listened quietly while I explained everything. "I need proof," I said. "Every transaction. Every lie. I want it documented." Carl nodded. "I'll need access to her social media, bank statements if possible, and any communication about the fundraiser. I'll get you what I can." He worked fast. Within 3 weeks, he had everything. Bank transfers showing the GoFundMe money going into her personal account. Receipts for the car, the spa trips, the remodel. Screenshots of her posts with timestamps. He handed me a thick folder. "This is airtight. If you want to take action, you've got everything you need." I stared at the folder, my hands trembling. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to post angry rants online. I was going to wait. And when the moment was right, I'd let the truth do the talking. Because the truth was the only weapon I needed. I wrote Trevor a letter. I poured everything into it. I told him about the stroke. About the hospital. About the words he said that broke my heart. I told him I was the donor. That I gave him my kidney because I loved him, even when he didn't love me back. I told him about the GoFundMe, about his mother's lies, about the money she stole while pretending to struggle. I didn't write it out of anger. I wrote it because he deserved to know the truth. I sealed the envelope and stared at it for days. It sat on my kitchen counter, taunting me. But I didn't send it. Not yet. Because I needed him to see who they really were first. I needed him to understand without me forcing it. So I waited. And I watched. Then Trevor got arrested. DUI. He crashed his car into a mailbox after leaving a party. No one was hurt, but the damage was done. The local news picked it up. Miracle transplant teen faces charges after DUI crash. I saw the mugshot online. His eyes were glassy, his face pale. He looked lost. Melissa posted a long explanation. Trevor's going through a tough time. Please keep him in your prayers. The comments were split. Some offered support. Others were harsh. Maybe he doesn't deserve that kidney. I felt a strange mix of sadness and satisfaction. Not because he was in trouble, but because the cracks were finally showing. The perfect image Melissa built was crumbling. And soon, the whole thing would collapse. I picked up the letter and held it in my hands. Almost time. Melissa filed a lawsuit against the hospital. She claimed they didn't provide adequate post-surgery care for Trevor, that their negligence caused emotional trauma. It was absurd, but she was desperate. The GoFundMe money was running out, and she needed another payday. The hospital's legal team contacted me. They needed to verify donor information as part of their defense. I sat across from their lawyer, calm and steady. "I'm the donor," I said. Her eyes widened. "You're the anonymous donor?" "Yes. And I have proof." I handed her copies of the signed consent forms, the medical records, the surgery notes. Everything. She stared at the papers, then looked up at me. "Does the family know?" "No. And I'd like to keep it that way. For now." She nodded slowly. "We'll handle this carefully. But Mr. Morrison, this changes everything." I stood up and shook her hand. "Good." The lawsuit collapsed within days. The hospital released a statement. Melissa's credibility shattered. And I still hadn't said a word. The media turned on her. News outlets pulled their support. The GoFundMe was frozen pending an investigation. People who donated demanded refunds. Melissa posted a frantic apology. "I made mistakes. I'm sorry. Please understand, I was just trying to help my son." But it was too late. The damage was done. I watched it all unfold from my quiet house, sipping coffee, feeling nothing. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just observed. Because I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't posted anything online. I hadn't gone to the press. All I did was hand over the truth. And the truth was enough. I sent the letter. Certified mail. No return address. 3 days later, my neighbor called. "Hank, I heard screaming at Melissa's house. Is everything okay?" I didn't answer. I just thanked her and hung up. I imagined Trevor opening the envelope at the kitchen table, reading every word, his face going pale. I imagined Melissa trying to grab it, trying to tear it up, trying to make it disappear. But it was too late. The truth was out. Trevor showed up at my door 2 days later. He didn't knock. He just stood there on the porch, shoulders slumped, eyes red and swollen. I opened the door slowly. We stared at each other in silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally whispered. I stepped aside, letting him in. We sat on the couch, the same couch where I used to hold him as a little boy. "Because you weren't ready to listen," I said quietly. "Until now." He broke down. He cried like he was 5 years old again, sobbing into his hands. "I'm so sorry, Papa. I'm so sorry." I put my arm around him. "I know, son. I know." We sat there for a long time, not saying anything. Just being together. For the first time in years, I felt like I had my grandson back. Trevor apologized for everything. For the hospital. For ignoring me. For letting his mother control the narrative. "I didn't know," he kept saying. I swear I didn't know. I believed him. He was young, easily influenced, blinded by his mother's manipulation. You've got a second chance, Trevor, I said. A real one. Don't waste it. He nodded, wiping his eyes. What do I do now? You live. You make better choices. You be the man I know you can be. He looked at me, his face full of shame and hope. Can I come back? Can we start over? I smiled. You never left, son. You were just lost for a while. He hugged me tight. And this time, he didn't let go. Melissa sent me an email. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I miss you. Please, can we talk? I read it twice. Then I clicked delete. No response. No explanation. Nothing. She'd had years to apologize. Years to reach out. Years to treat me like I mattered. She only cared now because she got caught. I wasn't interested in fake apologies or damage control. I was done. Trevor did a local interview. He sat across from a reporter and told the whole story. He named me as the donor. He exposed the GoFundMe. He admitted his mistakes. I was blind, he said. I didn't see what my mom was doing. I didn't see how badly I hurt my grandfather. But I see it now. He looked directly into the camera. Papa, if you're watching, thank you. For everything. I watched the interview alone in my living room, tears streaming down my face. That meant more than 1,000 thank yous. I sold the house. The house I'd paid off. The house where I raised Melissa. The house full of memories I didn't want anymore. I bought a small cabin near a lake. Quiet. Peaceful. No ghosts. I packed my belongings into a truck and didn't look back. This was my fresh start. I'm not waiting anymore. I fish every morning. I volunteer at the library on Tuesdays. I started painting, something I always wanted to try but never had time for. Trevor visits every weekend. We talk. We laugh. We rebuild what was broken. Melissa doesn't call. And I'm okay with that. For the first time in my life, I'm not waiting to die. I'm just living. A neighbor's kid came by yesterday. His bike chain broke, and he asked if I could help. I showed him how to fix it just like I taught Trevor years ago. He smiled big when it worked. Thanks, Mr. Morrison. I smiled back, watching him ride away. They thought I was just waiting to die. But I wasn't waiting. I was just waiting to finally be seen. And now? I see myself just fine.